Hello everyone, and this is my review for TNA Impact Wrestling on September 16th, 2015. And, I'm going to just focus in on this one of how I felt this show should have gone. I'm not going to say it was a bad show. I'll even say some of these segments were relatively good. But with the focus of everything being the whole TNA versus GFW thing, it was the main focus, but it should have been the entire focus of the show. You had a lot of really good segments leading into the Lethal Lockdown match, and you had a little bit of that GFW versus TNA tension in the Fatal 4-Way Knockouts title match, which was a really, really good Knockouts title match. I'm not gonna knock it there. That was a really fun and entertaining Knockouts title match, and let's see if they can build any kind of storylines after this whole GFW thing is going to be over with this show. But things they probably shouldn't have really been doing throughout the entire show is continuing the storyline with Muhammad Ali Shera versus James Storm. This whole thing with EC3, Jeff Hardy. Things like this should have been, like, you had TNA guys there acting as like nothing's going on outside of the normal. Everything's completely normal backstage. Nothing, no extra tension, no extra this, with the exception of the people that were a part of the actual Lethal Lockdown match. I liked the promo at the beginning of the show with Dixie Carter and Jeff Jarrett. I thought that was really good in there. And some of the backstage promos with like announcing this, like, hey, we have a fifth member, who's your fifth member type thing with Jeff Jarrett and Drew Galloway in there. I liked these segments, and I felt the entire show should have been focused in around that. The announcers did a good job of getting over the tension of the magnitude of it, but it should have reflected in the actual wrestlers themselves, and you didn't get that, especially with like the EC3 stuff with Jeff Hardy. I mean, even the aspect that they announced a TNA World Title match the next week before the actual Lethal Lockdown match is like, okay, you're announcing a TNA World Title match for the next week with EC3 and Rockstar Spud, but next week it could be the GFW title or whatever they decide to do with it, or a completely different group is in charge, like, and now you're just announcing this match like, oh, it's foregone conclusion, TNA's winning and everything like that. And, in the terms of the storyline, right, of course it was going to be a foregone conclusion who would win the match in there, but they could have done a better job of storytelling and keeping the tension up throughout the entire night by maybe not announcing that title match until a later time, or some more of the superstars, or more of the wrestlers and more of the knockouts backstage were kind of in more of a higher tension of what's going on, because you didn't really get any of that outside of the announcers and the guys who were a part of the match. Like, they didn't even, like, outside of the announcers within the actual Knockouts title match, you didn't really get that feel. Actually, you did get that feel a little bit in there, because you had all three, like Awesome Kong, Gail Kim, and Brooke, go after Lady Tapa in there. They did play off of that a little bit, and I applaud them for that, for actually attempting to build something in there where the rest of the night was not really being built that way with a lot of the other superstars. It would have been a better show if they could have conveyed a higher tension with all the different wrestlers in there, going in there. So this brings me to the actual Lethal Lockdown match, which was pretty much your normal Lethal Lockdown match. I'm not going to lie to you. I've seen plenty of these in the past, and they play out a lot the same the entire way through. You got the two guys starting off. The face controls the majority of the first so many minutes of it. Maybe the heel takes control after before the second person comes out, and then it's basically whichever team has the man advantage takes control for 2 minutes, and then the other team takes control when it evens up. Basically this back and forth the same back and forth until the last guy comes out there. And, you know, that's pretty much, in a nutshell, I won't say every single Lethal Lockdown match, but most of them. That's how they typically play out. Not a bad match. I thoroughly enjoyed it more once all 5 were in there, and I liked the little. I did like the back and forth that they had between both teams in that sense. But leading to that's kind of the same old, same old. This is how we're gonna do it. This is how we're gonna build the story going into the actual 5-on-5 segment, which also brings to the aspect of TNA's 5th member. Very random that it would be Bram. I will say, just very random. It almost didn't really make any sense that it would be Bram. I mean, where's the aspect that they built this storyline around Bobby Roode potentially either turning or doing something, and he's not even involved in the match in the end. Like, he had these segments with Jeff Jarrett and having Jarrett trying to get him to turn the week before, and it ends up being Eric Young. And then the following week is like when the Lethal Lockdown comes in, you had this tension built that it's like, okay, it could be Bobby Roode coming out, and then Bram comes running out. It's like, what? The storytelling of this was still in an aspect of they basically threw you a curveball for the sake of throwing you a curveball, and it just didn't come off well. I mean, Bram's a good is good in ring and everything like that. Don't get me wrong there, but in the terms of the booking of this match, this was again much like last week. If they wanted to do a heel turn, it would have been good for it to be Bobby Roode. This would have been another good spot to put Bobby Roode in. Where is he? I'm just saying in that one. So overall, this week's Impact Wrestling, they had some good segments in there. Even when it was just the TNA versus TNA guys, I thought there were some good segments in there. It's just the entire storyline of the night should have focused in around and building even more tension around the whole aspect of this TNA versus GFW and this potential hostile takeover of the company. And I feel in some cases, because they continually still were doing like TNA versus TNA storylines in there, or just kind of like a lot of the TNA guys like, oh, this is just business as usual type stuff. They dropped the ball on that in that sense. The Lethal Lockdown match, I thoroughly enjoyed it more once all 5 were in the ring. I thought it was a fun and entertaining match. They missed again, I feel like they missed the mark on the potential of a good story with the whole aspect of they built something for Bobby Roode to be either like a savior or a turncoat, and they did neither with him. They kind of just threw a curveball at you in every direction. So overall, okay show. Matches again really good. I have to applaud the Fatal 4-Way Knockouts title match. It was a really good one. The stuff with Rockstar Spud and EC3, though shouldn't have been done on this show, were still relatively good. And the stuff with Jeff Hardy again with EC3 still should not have been done on this show, but was still relatively good and could be entertaining on its own. But they should have done a lot more focus around building tension with everyone. It's like the TNA guys potentially being nervous over the fact that hey, we could be losing our jobs next week. This company might take over or something in that sense, and you just didn't really get that throughout the entire show. So, okay show, takes a hit on the aspect that they probably should have gone a completely different direction in the terms of the booking. But you know, again, matches really, really good. A lot of fun. Good matches in there. But the terms of storyline booking could have been a lot better, in my opinion, for that aspect. So that is my review for TNA Impact Wrestling, and I thank you guys for watching.